And I will say welcome to the 8 a.m. PLC II. This is, what day is this? This is April 10th, I think. Sometimes in quarantine, the days all start to kind of wind together, and all of a sudden it's Friday. So I hope that you have a good weekend planned after this in some way, shape, or form, you know, like venturing out into the front yard maybe, or maybe even to the backyard or something like that. So let me share my screen with you, and I'll kind of run you through the agenda for the day. This is our course website, and here we are in online week 3, if you can believe it. And here's our agenda. We got the TikTok update out of the way. One thing I am going to talk about right at the beginning, I feel like I haven't done a very good job of explaining Antonetti's cube, so I'm going to kind of rehash that. Then we're going to do some small group discussions about what you found in terms of the cube, and specifically for the Schlechty stuff on the front of the cube, personal response and clear model expectations. If you've got time in that small group, I'll ask you to kind of focus on the hot topic stuff, that the video that I asked you to watch. Then we'll come back as a whole group and just kind of try to process what you said in your small groups. I'll introduce the hot topic for next week, and then the next week's look fors, and then it'll be the weekend, unless you've got other classes, in which case it won't quite be the weekend. So that's the general plan for the day. First, I'm gonna stop sharing, but I don't think I have to. I think I can go and find this in the course website. So in the curriculum instruction class that I teach, or in one of the sections that I teach, I had a question the other day about the cube, and honestly what the heck it was for. And that came out of another PLC, but they just got me thinking, I'm not sure that I did a very good job, quite honestly, of explaining the cube and why you're using it. So let me just do a quick rehash of this. You guys watched the video, I'm assuming, of Mrs. Baker talking about John Antonetti. This is John Antonetti's cube. But understand that the stuff that's on the cube, even though Antonetti came up with the cube, the stuff that's on here is not really like his stuff. He's using the work of other researchers. And so our contention as your teachers is that when in the curriculum and instruction class you design your lesson plans, and even in your classrooms as you seek to design lesson plans to make your students you know, gain the material, use the material that you're teaching them, and try to actually retain the material. If you take advantage of this cube, what you can do is design a really good lesson plan. And so essentially what we mean by that is the 3 sides of the cube. So I guess it's not technically a cube, whatever it is, it's a half cube. If you look at the stuff on top, that's Marzano stuff that you've been learning in the curriculum instruction class. These are 5 of the 9 high-yield instructional strategies from Marzano. The stuff that's on the right side of the cube, the big idea thinking, synthesis, evaluation, analysis, application, that's all from Bloom's taxonomy. Those are the high-order thinking components of Bloom's taxonomy. And then the stuff on the front is from the researcher named Philip Schlechty. And we haven't done much with him, which is one of the reasons in this class that you're focusing on those specific qualities of engaging work in the observations that you're doing, okay? So our contention is that if you, in designing your lessons, take one thing from each side of this pyramid, of this cube, for designing your lesson plans, then the lesson plan that you'll have will be a pretty effective plan. So for instance, if I'm seeking out something that I want, you know, I want my students to analyze, let's see, if I want my students to analyze differences in the beginning of World War I and World War II, if I want them to analyze those differences, then I know that in big idea thinking, analysis is a high order thinking skill. I want them to do it by identifying those similarities and differences. So we're going to analyze something using similarities and differences. And I think I also want them to be engaged by learning with others. So analyze using similarities and differences by learning with others. So those are the 3 things that I take from the cube. I try to build that into my lesson plan. And one thing I might do is have them get into a partnership with each other, with learning with others, design a T-chart, which is identifying similarities and differences, so that they can use those, use that T-chart to do the analysis. So that's the activity that I would probably do in class that would take advantage of those 3 aspects of the cube. So that's what we're saying when we're encouraging you to look at the cube and how it's used. Is that a better job of explaining, or maybe you didn't even need the other explanation, but does that help kind of clarify what we're going for with the cube? Okay. So let me reshare the screen here. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to put you into some smaller groups, hopefully about 3 people in each group. A couple things to focus on. I'm hopeful that you were able to complete the an analyzing instruction protocol for personal response and clear model expectations. First thing I'd like you to do in your smaller groups is kind of share what you saw for both of those components in the lessons that you observed. And my hope is that you'll find that you were on the same page with those things. If we come back from those smaller group sessions and you've got a wildly different idea on what each of those things is, then probably we'll need to rehash that a little bit too. And then when you get done with that, my hope is that you will look at the hot topic materials. Hopefully you've been able to watch the video on standardized testing. And there are a couple questions to focus on. And you'll find the hot topic material. This is week 3, but you'll find it in week 2, and the questions there are in week 2 as well. So those are the things I'd like you to focus on in the smaller groups. I'm going to try to give you about 12 minutes to do those things, okay? And I'll give you the 2-minute warning and all that, and we'll come back. And then after about 12 minutes, as I said, we'll come back and do some overall rehashing of what you saw in your small groups. Do we need to do any more with the first 2 components of Schlechty's ideas? We move on from there. After we decide that, we'll introduce the next week's stuff, and then we're going to let you guys get out and either take a nap or finish your coffee or bring on the weekend, however it is that you choose to do it after this. So let me start the breakout rooms now. There's 14 of us here today. And you're going to be assigned into a room that's got either 3 or 4 participants. So I'm going to do those now. I'll see you, as I said, in about 12 minutes or so. And then we'll do some rehashing. So in the rooms, they're open. See you guys in a little bit. So as we come back, hang on just a second. Oops. Sorry, pushing lots of wrong buttons. We asked you to look at personal response and clear model expectations. As you were in your smaller groups, were there like radical differences in what you saw or what your definitions of those things were that we need to clarify or talk more about? Or were you pretty much on the same page as far as your groups were concerned? Megan, I see you jostling around there, so I'm going to ask you the question. Were you guys on the same page in your group with clear model expectations and what's the other one that we were looking at? Clear model expectations and, whoops. Now I got to go to the screen. Personal response, there we go.
Yeah, basically. Like I wasn't able to do it, but everyone else who did was basically said the same thing, so.
Okay, that's fine. And it's okay if you weren't able to do it, just at some point, if you can get back to it, and this is not just for you, that's for anybody that's on the screen there. These are interesting times, so do what we need to do. But let's go ahead and take a look at what we're going to ask you to do next week. I'm going to share the screen with you, maybe. There it is. Okay, so for next week, the first thing I'll talk about, let's just do the hot topic thing quickly. Next week's hot topic is a video of a woman named Rita Pearson. And in this particular TED Talk, it's about an 8-minute video. So it's about half as long as the one that we watched last week. This is Rita talking about why it's important for teachers to actually like their students, or at least for students to perceive that teachers like them. And so there's a couple questions after that to kind of ponder. Rita feels like students that don't like their teachers won't actually learn from those teachers. You may have a different opinion on that, but I would encourage you to watch the video just the same. so we can have a little bit of conversation around that next week. And the other thing that I'm going to ask you to take a look at for next week in the observations is analyzing instruction for learning with others and sense of audience. In this particular module, you'll see that the graphic organizer is included with the assignment. The graphic organizer will look the same. You'll fill it out the same as you did last week. You'll just do the observations, looking for the different angles, the different aspects that you did for the week before. The graphic organizer is actually the same. And the videos we're going to ask you to watch are actually the same. They will always be available in the online week 2 module. Okay, so you'll go back and watch the videos there. You can choose the same video to watch, or you don't have to. You can choose one of the different videos too if you want to get out and broaden your horizons in that way. But as far as learning with others and sense of audience, let's take a look at what that actually means here for just a second. I'll share my screen again. So this is a document that's available in the week 2 online module as well. It's just a quick run through of Schlechty's 8 qualities of engagement. You're looking this week for number 4 and number 5 on the list. For some reason, we decided to skip number 3, which is emotional and intellectual safety. We're going to do that later. But for this coming week, you're going to look at learning with others and sense of audience. And you can kind of see some of the stuff that's in there. Learning with others, it refers to working with other students specifically. And so you can take a look at classroom activities like something called Think, Pair, Share, which is essentially a forced way to get students to work together, think about things, get together in a group of 2 or 3, share ideas, and then share back out in the whole class. Small group discussions, something called reciprocal teaching, which would be me as a teacher doing a quick 3 or 4 minute lecture on a subject, and then asking partner A to turn to partner B and say to partner A, tell partner B what I just said in your own words. That's reciprocal teaching, back and forth. Peer revision, peer review. Student A reports or paraphrases student B's thoughts. So again, with reciprocal teaching, if I ask student A to tell student B what I just said, and then student B says back to me what student A told him, that is reporting or paraphrasing. So anything that you see like that, where students are put together with each other and asked to process information together. That's learning with others. Sense of audience means that in some way, shape, or form, the student work is shared. Could be with each other. That would be a form of that. If you're asked to share what you did with a group, that's sense of audience. If you're a social studies teacher and you're asking students to write about reasons that the Constitution was better than the Articles of Confederation, you might actually have them write letters to historical figures. That's a sense of audience. If you are, I don't know, if you're an elementary school teacher and you want to have students design a better playground for your school, you might have them present that to the school board, something like that. So if there's a sense of audience, if there's somebody or some group that students are presenting to, in general, the quality of their work becomes better because they know that in the end, they actually have to show it to somebody that's not just the teacher. And so that's what we mean by that. Those are the 2 things we're going to ask you to look for in those videos come next week. Questions about any of that? That's an awful lot to throw at you here. And we've only been here for half an hour today, but any questions about those things? So again, I would say that if you come into issues with internet access, you've got a job that you've taken and it's interfering with your schedule, we are certainly willing to work around all of those things. At least I am, and I think I speak for other teachers in our department too. Just kind of keep us in the loop, help us know what's going on, so that we can work with you in a more effective way. Final questions or comments for the group? All right, so your other assignment is to get outside at some point today, front yard, backyard, whatever it is. Even if you open the window, stick your head outside for just a second and take advantage of the day. It's a good day, and even though we can't be physically with each other, I do think about you guys often, and I hope that you are doing as absolutely as well as can be. So I'm gonna stop the recording.